Man, Kevin. I come from a garage on Montana and Genesee Street in Buffalo, New York. And the reason I say that is because the theme is unity, but our literature talks about maybe the most awful feeling that we had in active addiction was the isolation. See, this program is built on miracles. How in the world can you get millions of people transformed from the isolation into the unity? You know, active addiction was terrible. You know, and I can remember starting off when it was fun. It was fun. I was around a whole bunch of people. You know, we was getting high, you know. But isolation creeped in. We used to have what you call these quarter parties, right? When we go to the quarter parties, the girls sit all the way over there and the guys sit all the way over here. So to ask somebody to dance, you had to walk your ass all the way over there. So I made it up in my mind. I said, I'm going to ask Margaret. Margaret was my first love, y'all. She didn't even know that I loved her. And Margaret was my first love. So I said, all that week in school, I told my homies, listen, man, I'm going to ask Margaret to dance with me because Margaret had that bow grind. You know, we used to bow grind. You know, Margaret had that bow grind about her, right? So all that week I said, I'm going to ask Margaret to dance, right? So we get to the party. I'm over there. I took a deep breath and I walked my ass over there. I said, Margaret, would you like to dance? And she said, no. And I had to turn around. And it seemed like the chair. I'm walking back to the chair. It's just like when you done fucked up in Narcotics Anonymous. You understand what I'm saying? You on the front page of the NA Gazette. I'm talking about isolation. I'm talking about not feeling a part of this shit, even though you here. It just didn't work in active addiction. Isolation get your ass here. I done fucked up. I got caught. I thought I was James Bond around this motherfucker. And I got caught. And it seemed like every time I came in the meeting, James, it seemed like everybody was talking about me. They was over there minding their own business. Half of them people didn't give a fuck about, but in my mind, addiction isolates us. That's why it's essential that you work the 12 steps of this program. Because if not, it's essential to get to the unity. Because if not, you are talking to the same motherfucker that always tricked you the most. The same motherfucker that always lied to you the most. And the same motherfucker that always hated you the most. Our literature talks about how to protect ourselves from ourselves. And the only way we do that is to get outside of ourselves. But it's a learned process. Hey, when I was using, it was fun at first being high with somebody. And then after a while, this started working on me. Hey, that motherfucker don't never have no money over there. He always begging. You understand what I'm saying? So I slowly started to isolate to the bathroom, to my bathroom. I shot dope. At first, I had to pay somebody to cop from me. Then they would take the majority of the shit. I'm sitting there, I ain't high, he high. Well, I said, well, goddamn. Oh, this one, he's slobbing and nodding. And I got a big bubble on my motherfucking arm. So slowly, Nate, what I had to do, I had to learn, Nate, to cop for myself, Nate. I had to learn how to go and do my thing. And after a while, what was so fun with a bunch of y'all became a private thing. It became a private thing when I realized I suffered from low self-esteem, low self-worth. All that is isolation. All that is withdrawn from society. I didn't give a fuck about no society as long as I had some dope. It's just when I didn't have it. So I come from a lonely place like that, and I come to a place, and all you motherfuckers seem like y'all was happy and joyous and free. And it scared me. I didn't feel like I fit in. I wondered, how was I going to fit in? And then y'all suggested I get a home group. Hey, they throw me out to the Salvation Army out there. I was out there wearing dead man clothes out there at the Salvation Army. Yeah, I had Mr. T starter kit on, you know, that fake ass gold that we find when we was separating the clothes and shit. You understand what I'm saying? I had a sport coat, was a little bit too young for me. I went to the first NA meeting field. Guess what they did? They made me the greeter. I'm standing up there with that motherfucking sport coat on like this. They told me don't let a motherfucker come in there without hugging them. Everybody come in. Hey, welcome to Knockouts Now. Welcome to Knockouts. I'm mimicking now. I don't realize I'm being a part of this thing. I don't realize it yet. I'm just doing it to get the feeling of isolation off of me. To get the feeling of being a part of something. You know what I mean? Hey, I'm grabbing motherfuckers. And then this what happened after a few months. Somebody that I admired in the program of Narcotics Anonymous called me by my name. He said, "How you doing, Kevin H?" Whoa! Whoa! Not him! Not him! Who's sharing, look like, you know, he just loves everybody hugs him, you understand what I'm saying? And he's just a part of it. Not him. He called my name. And he gave me a hug, man. And I liked it. And I wanted it next week after that again. And then when I wanted it, Phil, and he was way over there and he didn't acknowledge me, shit, I went over there. And I grabbed, I said, "How you doing? How you doing, TJ?" He said, "I'm good, Kevin. How you doing?" And I liked the feeling of being a part of something. But I still had that isolation and that drawback, right? Until I met Reciprocal. Until I met Paradox. Until I start understanding that crazy shit y'all was saying that we can only keep what we have by giving it away. I said, what? You're talking to a pimp. I forgot to tell y'all I was a pimp. That escaped my mind. I said, but you talking to a motherfucker ain't never gave nobody nothing but heartache and direction. Right? So I met these things. Y'all giving me this stuff, man. And I'm resisting at first, but God kept putting me in position where I had to use it. This program ain't really about what you talk about. It's about what you do. It's about finding freedom, man. Locked in here. Locked in here. 100 motherfucking years clean. You still could get locked in here. It's going to take you away from here if you let it. If you don't talk about what's going on with here. Because guess what? My thinking gets my feelings to agree with what I'm thinking. Huh? My thinking and my feelings, they get into a relationship, they have a baby and name it behavior. So if I'm thinking like a nut, I'm feeling like one. And if I'm thinking everybody against me, I'm feeling like that. And I slowly begin to isolate, to withdraw, not only from our society, but society at large. What do they say recovery is? An active change of ideals, attitudes, and behavior. That don't just go for when you first get here. You fall into a lull sometime after being clean 20, 25 years. I got 20 years clean. I fall into a lull. My father said, I said, man, shit, fuck narcotics. No, I ain't with. He said, listen here. This is what I want you to do. Get you a newcomer. Go to the goddamn meet and get you a newcomer and work with. The jump started. Every now and then, you need to connect them cables to the negative and to the positive and jumpstart your recovery. Every now and then, you need to venture out to a different area, a different meeting, and keep this thing vital, keep it alive. If not, he's working to get you. And he comes in different ways, different situations, and different circumstances that you tell yourself, I got it. That's the worst motherfucking thing an addict can say. I got this. I got this. Because he's denying himself the process that's been given to him. How I told you about the guy, powers of example. It's in the way we live. It ain't about what we say. Somebody is always watching you. And it's the least person that you know about. They always watching you. What about when you get this thing in recovery? You understand what I'm saying? You get to a plateau where now it has to work outside with my family and my associates and my people at work. We'll have to really practice these principles. They said in all our affairs. Before I talk too long, if it's any newcomers in here, welcome. I know sometimes you go to the meeting, you go to places, seem like we be acting crazy. Guess what? We ain't acting. Yeah, you talking about that? Hey, I see us now. Going to conventions and shit. My brother all outside taking selfies. I remember I couldn't stand to look at myself. You don't even realize you're taking a selfie of a used to be monster or a vampire or a menace to society. And now your ass taking selfies, smiling. Because you're exhibiting what's been given to you so freely. And you must give it back. Jerry said, you must give this shit back. If you're going to stay here. You can try to be selfish if you want to. And it ain't even going to be nobody in Narcotics Anonymous that's going to acknowledge your selfishness. It's going to be somebody in your family to tell you that you changing. And that thing going to tell you, what the fuck they talking? Huh? But guess what the literature says? No matter how minor or little our disease displays itself, you must always take its deadly nature into account. It means don't go to sleep. Patience is an important part of recovery. The unconditional love that we experience will be met. Hey, every positive move on our part will be met by an unexpected opportunity. You got to keep staying positive. You got to keep working this thing, not only in this, but in our society, man. In our society, that's where it shows. Not at boot camp. Because this is the only place I come like a goddamn fool. And y'all say, oh, he just acting. He ain't acting. He crazy. You know what I'm saying? I could act it up in here. You know? But it's still some stipulations. You understand what I'm saying? Even as minor as my mind think that, it's still some rules and regulations and stipulations and principles that we have to go by here. Because if you don't practice them here, ain't no in the hell you're going to practice them out there. So this is where we start practicing. When I came up, you know, you ever come up to a strange place, you know what I'm saying? A couple people hugged me and stuff like that, but it was some looks on a couple of you motherfuckers' faces. Scared to approach you looks. Don't fuck with me looks. Yeah. There was a couple of y'all that had that said something was going on with you. You may be trying to hide it, but your face said it was something going on with you. I always practice. If somebody comes from out of town, I don't give a fuck whether I know or not, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to hug them. Because guess what? That might be the only one they get. That might be the only one they get, man. That's what we do. This thing ain't just stagnated, man. My first world convention, it blew my mind, man. You know, everybody had a blue book. People with dashikis on, they had turbans, they had their nationality get-ups on, but they had a blue book. And it might have been in a different language, but all the language was the same. Because guess what I did? I asked the motherfucking addict from Russia, did he smoke crack? He said, crack, no. Everybody from cross country and cross the continent knows about crack. When I mention crack, motherfucker from Russia, Iraq, Iran, Scandinavia, all of them was going, no. No crack. That's because we're more alike than different. A lot of times, I can look on guys' face and they be begging, they just be begging for somebody to come up and say anything to them. And that's how you break the ice, man. So, when I was little, here's another thing before I end. I grew up with 7 sisters. I was the only boy. That started the isolation right there. I used to break their dolls up and shit. And they doll houses and shit like that. I used to pee on the seat. I got my ass whooped for that one though. I got my ass whooped for that one though. You know, but think about this. When I went out and got to a fight, everybody had brothers. And I had to run home and get my big sister. I was running. And I started turning around and saying, I'm going to get my big sister. It started way back then. So when I was little, you know, we didn't have that much. You know, my father, we had 8, 9 mouths to feed. You know, we didn't have that much. So when I ventured outside as a kid, you know what I'm saying, I liked the candy. So when I ventured outside with kids, I used to try to hang with the kids who had candy. Right? So I would say, you know, give me a piece of candy. You know what I'm saying? Here, Gav, you know. But the literature explains we was addicts way before them. What did it say before coming to NA? We could not manage and live our lives as other people do. So that means we was fucked up before dope, right? So after a while, listen, after a while, them motherfuckers got tired of me asking for their candy. You know, I would run up Nate, I would come up and I can hear him say, uh-oh, here come Kevin, how's your candy? I would hear little shit like that, Nate. You know? So now, one day when I would walk up on dude, me and him supposed to be friends. I said, man, give me a piece of candy. So he got in his bag, boom. And as soon as I reached for it, he snatched it back. He said, nah, 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 nah. You know that nah, 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 nah shit. So I said, yeah, okay. I ran home. I said, Ma, can I get a nickel so I can get me some candy? You know, because back then, huh? Pea stone, squirrel nuts, monies. Hey, the liquid shit. You know what I'm saying? They had the paper with the buttons on it. You just tear the paper, throw the paper in your motherfucking mouth and just chuck the paper, man. Huh? So hey, when I got my nickel, now I'm getting ready to dad the motherfucker. I was revengeful back then too, right? So I went and got my candy, Nate, right? I run out here. By that time, most of their candy was gone. So I run up on them. They standing over there. Right before I get to them, I throw 3 pieces of candy in my mouth. I'm standing there chewing like a motherfucker, making the candy look good like a motherfucker. Oh, here he come. Yo, Cam, can I get a piece of candy? Right? So I said, hold on. I reach in my bag, and in my nervousness to Nana's ass, I dropped the candy. But here's something we used to do. I don't care where that candy is. And kiss it up to God. Somehow or another, it seemed like it made the candy taste better. We had all those little sayings. God kiss the devil miss it. Remember, we had all those little sayings. You know what I'm saying? But somehow or another, it seemed like it made the candy taste better. So listen to this. Maybe that thing that you're going through right now, maybe if you kiss it up to God, maybe God will make everything all right. I'm going to keep coming back. Thanks for listening.
The meeting right now is the theme of the conference, Unity Changes Us. And the first speaker up is Rich Hill. Okay? Very good, buddy.
Recovering addict, my name is Rich. You guys hear me okay? I'm going to get rid of this if I can. If you can't hear me, just throw something. I'd like to thank Phil and the home group for asking me to come out and share today. This is an awesome event. I'm sorry I had to miss it last year. I couldn't get off work. But this is one of those things that I try to make every year. When Phil asked me, he told me what the theme of this year's conference was and asked me to share on that. And I didn't know it, but it's the first line in our new traditions book. Can't hear it? I didn't know. Okay, can you hear me now? All right. I didn't know it, but it's the first line in our new traditions book. And he pointed it out to me. When the book came out, the very first day it was available, I ordered it. And I'm someone who tries to enter everything in my recovery and in my life in general with an open mind. And when that book came, I didn't have an open mind. I listened to some people who have some resentments and some people who may have some information I don't. And I wasn't sure I really wanted to read what was in that book. So I put it on the shelf. Actually, the only reason it came out of the package is because one of my sponsees, I bought a medallion, and it was his anniversary, so I opened up the package to get out the medallion. Otherwise, that book would probably still be sitting in there. But I know how God works in my life. Like when it's time for me to read what's in that book, it'll happen. The same thing happened when the Living Clean book came out. Like I'd heard some stuff about how the book came about. It's not written by addicts for addicts. Some stuff like that. One thing I always point out, neither is Webster's dictionary, but I find it very useful in my recovery. So like I don't hold that against literature, and I didn't read that book until we started a new meeting, and that was one of the books we read every month, and I actually love that literature today. So I kind of hope that it'll happen with that tradition book also. But the whole fact of unity changes us is a huge, huge description of my own recovery. I got here on Christmas of 1989, and I'd love to tell you that's my clean date, but it's not, because on October 22nd of 1997, I used one more time. It wasn't really my plan at the time, but that's the way it worked out. So my clean date is October 23rd of 1997. If Rich is willing, because I know God is, in a couple weeks we'll celebrate 20 years. And I never thought that could happen. The reason I really relate to this unity changes us is that, like I said, from 89 to 97, that was almost 8 years. Some of it in recovery, all of it abstinent, but all done on my own. When I got here, I thought I was different. I looked for every reason to disqualify myself. But I knew that I needed you guys. And I thought that you needed me. Because at some point in my recovery at that point, before my relapse, I went to meetings just to help you people. Because you were really sick and you needed help. But I didn't realize that I was the one that should have been showing up. A couple of our previous speakers here just spoke about loss, and Jerry spoke about losing a brother and a mother, and see, I think that was the beginning of my relapse. There was a cliche that I heard a lot when I first got here, and that's that the same person will use again. Like, I don't hear that very much anymore, but I still do believe it. And little by little, I started to become that person, not being part of the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. In 1995, I got a phone call from my sister that my dad had died. And I don't remember going to a meeting to share that, even though I felt the pain. My mother, who had been sick, as they closed his casket, said, "I'll be with you soon." And 5 weeks later, she passed. And again, I don't remember sharing that with anyone as part of my part of my home group. My we was really like very superficial. On October 22nd, it was a Wednesday night. My home group was in Altoona at that time on Wednesday nights, and instead of going to my home group, I stayed home and decided to use. A whole lot of stuff happened that night. My wife confronted me. I was honest with her about using, and realized I had to do something different. See, there's a very simple word that consists of only 2 letters. That's in all 12 of our steps. It starts the first 11, and that word is we. And somehow I never knew the definition of that word. I'm part of the Laurel Mountain Highlands area, and in 1997, in August of 1997, we started our Unity Retreat. And we weren't part of the area yet. I didn't know what a retreat was about, because with almost 8 years in this fellowship, I had never been to a speaker jam, I'd never been to a convention, I'd never been to a retreat. I didn't understand what we meant. So I didn't try real hard to get that first weekend off. I had to work that weekend. I work every other weekend at my job, so when I want to attend many things, I have to switch weekends, and I'm blessed with the people I work with. I'm very open about my recovery, and they're always willing to help. I didn't work very hard to make it to that first event, and 2 months later I relapsed. Now, I'm not telling you that's why I relapsed, but I haven't missed one since. This year we had our 21st Unity Retreat, and no matter where I am in this country, in this world, I will do my best to make it back there. Because that, at number 2, the Journey Continues number 2, that was the very first time I actually witnessed what this fellowship of we was about. I saw people of different ages, different races, different sexes, different religions, different economic backgrounds come together for one reason: to celebrate their recovery and to get another day clean. It's real easy for me to talk about a Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. Sometimes it's not so easy to be part of a Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. I like the way Jerry shared. I do real well with analogies and pictures. And Jerry shared about being on the outside of a fence and everybody else is in the playground playing. And that just kind of really hit home to me, because when I grew up, when I was born, my left foot was completely backwards and turned to its side. They told my mother I might never walk. So I didn't get to play on the playground as much as other kids. I literally was on the other side of the fence at times. And that's part of where my using came in, because I tried to fit in. What I didn't realize is that drugs, they lie to me. They make me believe that I'm going to fit in. But instead, they push me further and further away from people, until I started using with just me, myself, and I. And that was the end of my road. A whole lot of things conspired. My wife confronted me at that time, and I went to a rehab center and was introduced. I can't remember if I actually went to an outside NA meeting or an H&I meeting, came in first, but that was my introduction to Narcotics Anonymous. And I felt at home immediately. Like I said, I got clean first in 1989. There was not a lot of Narcotics Anonymous in Western Pennsylvania. I live just outside of Altoona. I live between Altoona and Johnstown. And there was 2 NA meetings a week in Altoona, and I believe that was Narcotics Anonymous. I knew there was some place in California we sent a check and they'd send us key tags, but I didn't know there were people sitting in these rooms. People in Johnstown, people in Indiana, people in Pittsburgh, people in surrounding areas. Not a lot, but there were people sitting in those rooms already trying to carry the message of Narcotics Anonymous. It was up to me to become part of the we. Because of my background, kind of being an outsider as I grew up, it was real difficult for me. Some people who know me today may find it hard to believe, but I'm a very introverted, shy person. Once I get to know you, I can kind of come out of my shell, but it's not so easy for me. So I've been grateful that, in this fellowship, people have reached out to me. I heard Nate sharing about how he was going through some times of health problems, and got mad that people weren't showing up for him. And like he, I also found out that it's part of my responsibility to reach out to those people. People in my home group didn't magically know that my parents passed away. I have to be open about my feelings. Today, if you come to a meeting, I've been through some trying times over the past 20 years. Lost some people. Lost my very first sponsee. He was killed in a car accident. One of my home group members was murdered by her ex-husband. And every time that's happened since then, I've reached out to the fellowship. I've come to depend upon the unity that I've found here. For me, my ability to become part of the we came through service. When I had about a month clean, some guys showed up at my home group, and they said, we have this thing called an area. And at that time, area service met in Johnstown, and I lived on Crescent, so I lived the closest, so I raised my hand and said, I'll be the GSR. I didn't know what a GSR was. I just knew that somehow I needed to get involved. When I relapsed in 97, my wife had asked me if I needed to go back to treatment, and I said, no, I have a whole lot of knowledge. I just been failing to apply it in my life. And what I realized at that point, having some knowledge, is that I didn't understand what the fellowship I may understand the program to some extent, but I didn't understand the fellowship. And without both, for me, I can't stay clean. So I got involved in area service, and I remember that very first, sometimes it ticks me off a little bit, sometimes I find it kind of funny. People call it area circus. But I remember that first meeting I went to, and short of picking up chairs and hitting each other, it kind of looked like studio wrestling, But to this very day, it was a long time ago, I remember as we left that room that day, people hugged and everyone was okay with what happened in that room. That was my real first experience of a group conscience driven by a loving God, and I started to understand what the we was about. Over the years, I've been blessed to be involved in all sorts of service. I've got to chair our Unity Retreat a few times. I've been area chair. I've got to serve on many committees. And somebody asked me one time when I kind of hesitated to step up as area chair. See, unlike a lot of other addicts, I have this ego problem sometimes. And I thought, well, I'm going to be the man. And truly, being able to serve as our area chair is one of the best things that has ever happened for me, because I realized that, like, I had to step up there, conduct business, and have no opinion on anything. That's not easy for Rich not to have opinions. But if I did have an opinion, I couldn't express it. And I had to continue. My goal when I started that was to bring more unity to our area. We're a very large area. We used to cover 7,000 square miles. That's an area. There's regions not nowhere near that big. We're down to about 5,000 square miles now, but it's a very large area, and it's sometimes hard to promote unity between the groups. Part of the reason that we have a unity retreat is just for that, to bring people together on this journey. Now, there are times when I just wish that somehow, through some sort of magical transformation, people could feel what it's like to feel what I'm feeling. There were some people that shared today, and there were times when, like, I call them God bumps, and maybe people call them goosebumps. Like, when I would so relate to what they've shared, that it really touches my spirit. Like I said before, I'm a big believer in the dictionary. There's a whole lot of words I think I know, but I'm not really. I think I know the definition. And then there's some words that I know the definitions to, but they took on a new meaning for me. And I was thinking about that this morning when I was sitting there and I was looking at the banner for this year. And the word unity just kept jumping out, because that is the theme of this conference this year. And I just started to think about, like, okay, I know what the dictionary definition of this is, but what does it mean to me in my recovery? And I came to a pretty simple conclusion, that the word unity to me means that I feel the love of the fellowship, and that there's this flow of loving energy that comes through us when we get together. And we get together with a common theme of getting another day clean. I don't know about you, but I've been to meetings, and Jimmy shared about this, sometimes not feeling welcome in a meeting. I've been in that situation, but I've also been in the exact opposite situation, where at a certain meeting I felt so a part of, and it touched my heart so much that as we formed that closing circle, there was this energy that just kept flowing through me, and I could feel the love of the other people in that circle. A few years ago, 2013, we were celebrating the 60th anniversary of Narcotics Anonymous. And it just so happens that this conference took place on the exact same date as the very first recovery meeting of Narcotics Anonymous. That weekend was one of the busiest weekends in our region. There were speaker jams, and there were dances, and just everything was going on. And there were people in and out of here all day long. Sometimes there was 100 people in here. And as the day wound down and we got to our final speaker, the crowd was really thin. And, I'm a big believer that, like, there's things that happen for an exact reason. And that meeting closed after the main speaker. And we got together in a circle right here, and we barely filled this space here. And as we said that closing prayer, we were within 1 hour, 60 years to the moment of when the first meeting started. And that first meeting was held by Jim McKinnon and 16 other people. And in that closing circle that day, there were 17 of us, just like at the very first Narcotics Anonymous meeting. They talked about a guy named John who was the speaker at the first event, and he was a cool dude. He was living in Oregon for a long time. I don't know where he is today. I got to see him again at the World Convention in Philly. But he always said that, like, everyone's there. Everyone who's supposed to be there will be there. Like, I kind of doubted that sometimes. And that day, I really felt the fellowship and the unity of Narcotics Anonymous. Because it's not about the number of people. That day, that number was significant. Had there been 100 people, it wouldn't have meant as much. But the fact that we were celebrating our recovery with the same number of people that had this wonderful idea, God-given, to start this fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous just touched my heart. I'm a big fan of the history of our fellowship. And this is the basic text I carry in my car. And there's a whole lot of things in here that mean a lot to me. And when I was studying some of our history, I studied a lot about Jim McKinnon. But I don't know if you realize this. He got sober in 1950. So in 1953, he had 3 years clean. I don't know about you, but I don't know a whole lot of people with 3 years clean that have the ability to start a new fellowship. So I don't think that was all done on his own. I believe that was God-given. And I remember reading once where he had talked about how what we do today is meant for people who aren't here yet, even people who aren't even born. And that was in 1953, and I was born in 1957, so I figured he was talking about me. But there's a quote of his, and I believe this came from when he spoke up in the New York Convention in 1983. And it speaks to the unity of this fellowship. It speaks to what I can do and what you can do. He said, but it's going to take all of me, and it's going to take all of you, and all the people that you're going to talk to, and all the people you're going to carry the message to make this a greater reality. I invite you to join me in a greater reality, carry the message of Narcotics Anonymous, and the love that we have to offer in the unity of this fellowship.